be literally like this.
Now we need to arrange ourselves here, so if you'd like to come to the front so we can see perhaps in the middle. You're fine there, sir. Okay. I'll go somewhere where right, if we just sort of gather round here, quite a lot of you today. If the children want to come to the front, that's fine. Or I know what the children might like to do. Do you want to take them around this side? Just, would you like to come here?
I thought the church hated people like that.
We try to please everybody. Excuse me. You get very special.
Oh, that's it.
Right. Well, there we are. Okay. Right. This is the shrine. Right? And this was destroyed. It dates back to the 1300s. When the monastery was shut, it was a time of a big reform in religion, the way people prayed, and in this country it meant everything and anything that had to do with the Roman Catholic Church was destroyed. This was part of a Roman Catholic shrine. It was broken up into pieces. And it was used to brick up these arches. Because remember, the church was now separate from that chapel. And so for really 300 years, we had no idea where this shrine was. When they were restoring the church in the 1800s, and when they were going to put the two bits together, they unbricked these arches. And they found parts of this shrine and parts of that shrine over there, the Albans shrine. And so they put them together. Now, when we look at the Albans shrine, we're going to see something a bit different. But here, all they did was, like a jigsaw, they pieced all the pieces they could together, and then they built a frame to support it. So the top bit, a lot of it is actually the original, but the lower bit, some of it is original, but some of it is simply making a frame to keep the pieces together. You with me? Yeah? Okay. Right. And the pilgrims, then and now, can come in here and they can kneel right up against it. Right up against it. And there are little ledges where they can leave money or jewels or something that is important to them that they want to leave with the shrine. Under the canopy, now that's where the relics were. Now, if it was bones, they were probably put in a rather special box, maybe silver, maybe gilt, something really special. Might have had a lot of jewels on it. And there were the bones, and so your pilgrims were getting as close as they could to the relics of the saints. And when we look at this, we think, well, it's all pretty grey, isn't it? In medieval times, if you look on that side, on the pillar over there, just behind, on that side, can you see paint? Now imagine this church painted, beautifully painted, colourful, gilded, all the rest of it. What an amazing thing that must have been, especially for those pilgrims who were poor, who lived in shacks. That must have been absolutely amazing to come into a building this size and think, my goodness me, look at this. It smells good because they're burning incense. Maybe the organ was playing. They heard music. Absolutely amazing. On that side we have, in a little chapel on that side of the main chapel, we've got a grave of Humphrey, Duke of Gloucester. He was the brother of King Henry V. And on this side, we'll have a look at it from round the back, we have a wooden structure which is called a watching loft, because this was the most special place in this church, and you had all sorts of people, and you had no idea who they were coming. And so you would have 24-hour-a-day surveillance. People of the town would be obliged maybe once a year to come and do a stint here, to keep an eye on what was going on here, because obviously didn't want any damage or bad behaviour here in the shrine. Okay? Right, so we're now going to go, if you like to walk that way, we're going to look at that shrine, and you could go down in the lift. Oh, Okay. Now, here we have, if we look quickly at these pictures, you've got the story that I already told you, but not quite. Here we have Alban, and he has invited Amphipus into his house, and they bought him. And here we have Amphipus giving Alban the cross, right? Signifying that he has now been baptized and has become Christian. And we have Alban giving Amphipus his cloak, can you see all right? Cloak, saying, you take that, you will be okay. And you can go on your journey and you can continue to baptize people. And so that is what is happening here, that Amphipus, wearing his cloak, is going around and he is baptizing people, becoming Christians. The bit I didn't tell you, what we should have worked out, was this bit here. Because although Amphipus does escape and he does continue practicing as a priest and baptizing people, in the end he is caught. And he suffers a rather painful death. Now, just to point out, Alban was beheaded. That was considered to be a more noble death. It wasn't as painful, right? His head was cut off. He was obviously tortured and probably beaten. It looks to me as though somebody's attacking his head. He obviously had a much more painful death, but die he did. So what happens is his bones are found in a village not so far from here, up in Redbourne, right? And they are brought to the Abbey, and they are put on a shrine. Now this is the Amphipus shrine. Just like to have a look at it.
Oh, sorry.
Now, if you remember, I said that the Alban shrine, they put together the bits as best they could and they sort of built a cage to support it. Here, they did it differently. Right? This was done very, very recently. They put together, when it was first found, back at the same time as the Alban shrine, they sort of stuck it together very badly. But the previous dean, Geoffrey, said it really deserved something better. He was, after all, the priest who created the first British martyr, and so during lockdown, this was completed. And what they have done is they have kept the original pieces, but they have reconstructed what they think it might have looked like. But at the same time, you can see the old bits. You can see they're not trying to rebuild it completely. They're trying to show you what it might have looked like. And as you walk round, and we will in a moment, I'll ask you to walk round, just have a look. You can see original bits. You can see there's a little animal here. Lost half his head. But up here you can see these, what we call grotesque heads. They're grotesque. But they probably are based on people that the original sculptors knew. So you know how it is, people have distinctive features, and they've incorporated them. And these are modern ones, but there are older ones around. But it's the same principle. You can kneel right up against it. You've got ledges here, and you've got a canopy. The red canopy was for the major saint, Alban. Blue now for Amphibolus, who is considered not to be as important, perhaps. Beautifully decorated, beautifully sewn, absolutely. And there is one thing that when this shrine was first dedicated, it was in the national press. But not for the reasons I would have hoped, but because on one little head we have a COVID mask. Because the masons who actually were working on this worked in lockdown. They were in lockdown. And one of them actually got COVID but survived, right? So rather than you spending the next 10 minutes trying to work out which one it is, I will point it out to you. So if you like to just follow, and when I pointed it out, if you just like to move it around there. Okay? Right. So come with me.
No trouble.
Just the head in the corner there.
Oh yeah.
So 100 years time, people come here.
Right.
Yep. I don't know whether his bones are still in there. It sounded like the bones would have pissed off as well, so. Otherwise people are making a pilgrimage to nothing. You can walk all the way here for nothing. So some good came away from
This is not an original clock, but it is a replica of one that was designed and made back around the 1330s, 1340s. So it's one of the very first clocks, mechanical clocks that we had. I think if you go to Salisbury Cathedral, you can actually see one which is a bit later, but which is the original clock. So this was modern technology, but done by apprentices back at the end of the last century. So really interesting. What I wanted really to show you was this. So if you're over that side, we look up quickly. Now, on the other side, this structure, this watching loft, had windows that looked over the shrine. On this side, you have something very, very different. This dates to around 1400. And if you look at the carvings at the bottom on that frieze there, just look at them, take it in and think, what am I looking at here? You're looking at animals, you're looking at people. You're looking at what was going on in medieval England around the year 1400. It is absolutely amazing. I haven't got time to go through them all. We've got some men wrestling there. We've got piglets suckling. I think that's probably a lamb also suckling. You've got a milkmaid down here. You've got all sorts of things that actually tell you what life was like around 1400 in this country. And I think as a piece of history, I look at this and I think, do you know, somebody around that time was chiselling away here. And they were using chisels just like the chisels we have now. And then you look at the top and you think, well, these were the apprentices, because that's how people learned in those days. You started at the very bottom, you're probably just carrying planks around and things like that. And then you get a chance to do some basic work. And gradually, as your skills improve, are refined, then you get the privilege of doing that sort of carving. And I think that is really something to reflect on. So, what you look unique, you're not going to find one anywhere like that elsewhere, and maybe not even in Europe. And if you just move down here. Again, we're looking up at the watching log. Bottom, there you've got a bear being painted. That's a very popular house. A bear chained up and dog baited. Not very nice. If you look up, can you see two slits in the top half? You need to come. So you probably need to come back this way a little bit so you can actually see. In the top half, just underneath the top of that arch, you've got two vertical slits. Now remember, you've got people up there looking out over the shrine. But this was the main pilgrim route. People were coming up here from the West End or from the north side, and they were on their way to this shrine. Now, you could say that is your medieval CCTV, because they're keeping an eye on who's coming. At times it was very busy here, and they probably wanted to see, although that nice group from Luton, now we can see they're very well behaved, they'll be fine, they'll be fine. But you might have had a rowdy lot from St Albans maybe, you know, who was sort of, oh, they've had a few too many, haven't they? Right, we better just keep an eye. We'll tell our mates, you know, keep an eye on what's coming next. Who knows what it was, but it certainly was a way of seeing what was going on. Okay? Has anybody got any questions? I've not been asking you questions.
Are there still bones?
Good question. Have we still got bones? Right. We have a bone. Now, the thing is, that when the monastery was closed and when we turned away from the Roman Catholic Church, it didn't happen just overnight. Venerated by the Orthodox. And on the 22nd of June or thereabouts, when we celebrate St Albans Tide, it is available, it's made available to be venerated by these communities. So yes, we do have a bone for amphibious. No, we have not. Does that answer your question? Right, okay, so we're going to move in this direction. I prefer if you walked on that side. Right, we're going to walk past the brass plaque, but if you go that side, it's easier. Right, so what we've got here, I've explained at the time when the Abbey was shut by Henry VIII and sold off, he took everything that was valuable, right? The buildings were sold, and he got money, right? Something like this, which is a memorial brass, of which we had many, would, if it had been found, taken away and melted down, probably. This is valuable metal, right? This one somehow survived. It would originally have been in front of the high altar, which is just through there, which is where this man was buried. And he is Thomas de la Mare. And he was an abbot here for about 40 years. He became abbot at the time of the Black Death, the plague, right? Which struck in about 1349 and killed off in places half the population. And here the abbey was not actually exempt from that. The monks, because the monks were not, it wasn't what we call a closed order. These monks were out and about, they were doing things, and they were also looking after the sick and the poor. So they too became infected. And the abbot died. Thomas took his place and was abbot for 40 years, and then he experienced the peasants' revolt, which was a different story again. So he had a pretty tough time. But there he is. We think that this was made probably in Flanders in Belgium. The abbot would have travelled probably to see the Pope at some point. So there you have him. And normally such a brass, if you can just see it round here, at the very edge, there's writing. The writing goes from here, and it stops suddenly there. And these brasses actually told the life of the person who is depicted. So it tells you he is Thomas la Mare, blah, 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 blah. But the rest of his life is missing. Why might that be? Well, probably to do with the Black Death. A lot of people died, and that would include ordinary people, right? Including craftsmen. And it is possible that there was nobody left who had the skills to fill in this man's life. We don't know, we speculate. And we're standing in front of a rather beautiful little chapel, one of the last things to be built in the church before it was closed, about 1520. 20. Again, it's a beautiful example of the craftsmanship. This is what we call a chantry chapel. It's there, paid for by an abbot who was called a Bramridge. We've got lots of Brams on it here. And it was, why did he pay for it? Well, when he died, he hoped people would come here and pray for his soul. It's a chantry chapel. They would have chanted prayers, what have you, in the hope that he would get to heaven really quickly. It's a beautiful example of the carving in what we call fanbody. It opens out at the top, right? Which you see in a much bigger form in King's College, in Cambridge, or St George's Chapel in Windsor. Very beautiful example of that. And it's now a chapel dedicated to the dead. It's a place where people can come when somebody has died and wants to just pray quietly. That's what it's there for. Okay? Right, so we're going down now. We're going towards, we're really coming into the northern part, which I want to visit there. Just looking into this part of the church. So we really are here surrounded by big, round Norman arches. Really, really big. And we're looking here at a door through which the pilgrims have passed their one was missing. When Jesus appeared, Thomas was not there. And they said to him, Thomas, this most amazing thing happened. Jesus came back. And Thomas said, I just don't believe you. You're telling me a story. You're making it all up. And he said, I will believe when I can touch the wounds in his side, the wounds from his crucifixion. And this is Thomas kneeling there, touching the wounds in the side of Christ, and then he believed. So that's a painting, probably about 1400s. Most of our paintings have gone. I think you saw some paintings in the nave. We'll go back and have a quick look at those again, because they were all whitewashed out at the time of the Reformation, this religious change. Get rid of everything to do with Roman Catholics. Oh, they have lots of paintings. Oh, we better get rid of those. And they whitewashed them, and they whitewashed them, and they whitewashed them. And these were found again in the 1800s. And then you're thinking, look, the most dominant thing here is that window. You can't see it, can you? It's a beautiful window. But in terms of this church, which was started in the 1000s, that is modern. That window, the stone, was put in towards the end of the 1800s by the man, that man over there, you see his bust just over there, who paid to to restore this church, a church that was falling down. And he said, I don't like the windows up there. And after all, I'm paying. So why should I pay a lot of money to make it good when I could have something that you want? And what he wanted was a rose window. Why? Well, it was Yorkshire. And he gave you your Minster. Your Minster has a beautiful rose window. He will have one of those. So he had that window. He designed it himself. But he was what we call low church. Now, low church means no ornamentation, no stained glass, no paintings, no nothing. And so if you just turn and look this way, over here, you can see that was one of the panels that was taken out when this was reglazed. And that was quite recent. This was reglazed in, I think it was about 1989. And Princess Diana came here to witness it being unveiled and dedicated. How did that come about? Well, a local company in Luton actually decided that there were celebrations of centenary and they would like to celebrate it in some permanent way, and they said they would like to reglaze this window, right? And that is what they did. They employed a stained glass designer who came, the industry was called Laporte Industries, and they came up with that beautiful abstract design. But there's a bit of marketing in there, right? Because they put their logo in, right? Now their logo, if you look, you've got a circle, small ones, and then you've got bigger ones. The one that I would say is at 12 at top, the big one at the top. You see me? Right? Has got some diamonds, some blue diamonds. And you see those again at 8 o'clock and at 4 o'clock. So, just making sure we remember who they were. Okay, right. So if we now just move under the tower, and we can sit down for a moment or two, I'll just explain how to move. You okay there?
Okay.
Right?
You all right?
Yeah, you.
Yes. Learning a lot.
Sorry?
Should have asked how long this goes on for before we started.
Yeah. Do you want to go? You can.
No.
Okay, we're all here. Right, excellent. Right, so we now are in the heart of that Norman church that was started in 1077. It took only 11 years to build. Now you look at the size of this church and you think, that was pretty quick, How long has it taken them to do lots of things in this country now? It takes a long time. Right, okay. So this is Norman architecture, massive pillars here. But the amazing thing is it's not built of stone. It's built of brick. And the brick is not even Norman brick. The brick is from the Roman town of Bury Lane. So that was started around the year 100, right? And so we have brick here that is very, very old. Look at the tower as you go out, either through the window in the Welcome Centre or outside. Look at that enormous square tower. It's the oldest and only surviving one of its type in the country. But the brick is Roman brick. It's not brick like that, it's brick like that. Absolutely amazing, right? So we're recycled, but then so are lots of buildings in this country. But this is definitely a recycled cathedral, right, in terms of its building. And the brick is, you can actually just see over there in that gallery up there, you can see they stripped the plaster back and you can see how the bricks were modelled, right? So they plastered it and then they painted. We see an example of one of the paintings there, but the rest of the paintings have all gone. Such a shame, but never mind. But we have still some really beautiful things. Look at that lovely vault, the vaulted ceiling up there, above the presbytery, above the high altar. Believe it or not, that dates from the 1200s. It's a wooden ceiling. It's a wooden vault. And if anybody has the energy and the desire, you can look on our website and you can go up the tower. We've got bells above here. And you can walk above that ceiling. And you will see how fragile it is. It's very fragile. It was repainted in the 1400s. Yeah, that's right, 1400s, by an abbot called John of Beaton. Again, he's doing a bit of self-publicity because he put up their lamps and he put up eagles. Now, in religious terms, the lamb is the symbol of John the Baptist. And the eagle is the symbol of John the Evangelist, and the abbot was called John. So maybe he's just saying, well, when you look up there, remember I was the one who had it painted literally roughly way, right? So there we have it. The high altar screen, that also is not part of the original building. That is about 1480s. This area here, this was for the monks. When it was a monastery, this was for the monks, right? And they prayed, they were Benedictines, they prayed 8 times. One starting in the middle of the night and then 7 times during the day. And so this is where they would have prayed, not in these choir stalls. Their stalls were removed. But this is where they would have prayed. And lots of pilgrims coming, so they would have sort of screened themselves off. Originally, you would have never seen a shrine behind that. But they were then screened off. And this would have been for the monks only. So it's changed a lot. When this church was being used as the parish church, this part is probably what was used. It was smaller. Right? And so they would have had pews probably across there. It would have been very, very different. But in 1877, this church became a cathedral. It had needed a lot of work to get it fit for purpose. Every cathedral needs a bishop's throne. That's the bishop's throne. We call it a cathedral. It's the throne of the bishop. And those stalls were all put in towards the end of the 1800s. And here we have regular services. Today there will be evensong. Tomorrow there will be a Eucharist, a Mass celebrated at 11:15. All parts of this church are used for service. Anybody have any questions? I'll just... No, very uncomfortable. No, it's not the first cathedral we had. The first one was also very uncomfortable. No, today, if the bishop attends the service, he normally is integrated into the ranks of the clergy, right? Separate but integrated, okay? So no, it isn't used very much. I suppose, no, I can't think of an occasion. Okay? I just point out the ceiling of others. As I say, above us we've got the tower, we've got the bells, right? But the ceiling is interesting for a different reason. You see red and white roses. For those of you whose memory of history is still there, Wars of the Roses in the 1400s, when you had the House of York, White Rose, contesting the House of Lancaster, the Red Rose for the throne. Who should be king, right? The very first battle took place here in St Albans, in the marketplace. So if you walk through our market today, you could walk across a marketplace. And the marketplace, apart from the stalls, looks very much like it did in those days. Okay? So we're going to go now into the nave, where we're going to finish our tour. So I think we'll go this way, so we'll have a round. Okay? Right.
Can I ask, how about these choir stalls? Are they used now? Because there are other choir stalls, aren't there?
Right. In fact, sit down and then have a little show. This church is used, everywhere is used as well. Tomorrow morning, there will be at 9:30, there will be a family meeting of the service, right? And that is in the nave, and it will be pretty full. And that's for people who like lectures, they love formal form of worship, and lots of families coming. So we have our altar and we have our choir, right? At 11:15, the more formal choral retreat will take place here, and we have two choirs here. Well, actually, we have two. We have the boys' choir, right? A more traditional piece choir. We have a girls' choir, which is girls and men's voices. And then we have, I suppose what you might call a choir that's made up of members of the parish. And they very often sing at the parish choir. They often sing at the night service. So everywhere where there's a service, you've got an organ. And you have choir girls, the big one. Christmas time, Easter, that's where your main service is. Okay? Right, so we're just going to go around this way. Okay, all right? Be careful, this one is a bit bumpy. Good, right, we're going this way.
You all right?
I was taking some pictures of the pretty picture. I just did all the Chinese round, so I'll just wait in a second one.
Yeah. We'll just go this way and then
Right, first of all, let's just have a look at our statues there. This part of the church is what's called the nave. It's the longest part, it's the longest nave in the country. And we've got the screen behind that, we've got the monastery. And those doors on either side can only be opened from the other side. So it means the monks could come out and process through here, but the public could not get in, right? That screen would have been full of brightly coloured medieval statues, all removed, shattered at the time of the Reformation. So we've got, it was an ambition to put some painted statues back on that screen to celebrate the 900th anniversary of the consecration of the church. How do you choose seven statues? Well, you've got all of them. So we've got the thing, we've got martyrs. These are all martyrs. They include Roman Catholic martyrs, early Protestant martyr. In fact, he was burned at the stake outside here by Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary, Mary Tudor, the daughter, the oldest daughter of Henry VIII, who never accepted Protestantism, never broke away from the Roman Catholic Church, and when she became queen said, right, really need to save England from its fate, turned away from the Roman Catholic Church, and her methods weren't always the best, because it was by force. If you won't do it willingly, then I will show you what will happen to you in the church. And she burnt. And we had that guy called George Hansfield came here, not willingly, he was forced to come here as this is what will happen to you. He was a Protestant, he wouldn't have adopted the Roman Catholic faith, so this is what's going to happen to you if you don't do as I tell you. Well, just outside the church. So we also have Orthodox, we have Roman Catholic, Orthodox, Roman Catholic, as well as Protestant. So there you have it. So they are made of stone that came from Caen, Normandy, painted in modern colours, but just to remind us that that's how the whole church was. But the reason I brought it back in, I know some of you have seen this already, but I want to talk a bit about the wall paintings. We have four rather large wall paintings here. Just over there, on the western crucifixions. And we have that, on 5 pillars, 6 pillars. And we think these pillars were used as altars. Pilgrims could come through here, and they may wish to have attended Mass before they went to the shrine chapel. So possibly these pillars were used as altars. These taller paintings, these date from the 1300s, and as you can see, they are hardly visible at all. After those 300 years where they've been painted over, they scraped off the whitewash and scraped a lot of ink with it. And it was very difficult. They're great one listed, you can't touch them up, you can't really do much except observe them. But modern technology, being as it is, devised a means of finding out what these paintings might have been. And I'm going to take this one. That one is St Christopher, this one is Thomas Becket, this one is the Lady going to take St Thomas. I'm going to ask you to look at it. Just watch carefully and see what happens. Just watch. Now that sums up about 7 years of research, trying to find out what was gone out. Come back. Trying to find out what was under the different layers that came to bring this lovely picture here. It's truly amazing. The projectors are up there. Each picture has its own projector. And this is something you're not going to see anywhere else. Technology maybe soon will be available for other people, but it took a long time. And they are truly amazing. So I'm going to close that. Go out. Want to go? No mind. Right. So we're now going to try and light all the others up. But I'm not going to show you the process. I'm just going to show you the finished product. Truly amazing. So there is so much more I could tell you, but I said an hour is what I think we should stop with. Can I have And so in France they adopted what we call the Gothic style. And the Gothic is stone and it's got these pointed arches. And so that was the first extension. They retained that pillar on that side, but on this side the two Norman pillars went. Right? So that would explain that bit. But what about this? Now this bit originally was north. And then, around 1132, I think it was, or was it 1188, that bit collapsed. Simply collapsed. Why? Foundations maybe, earthquakes, we did have earthquakes, something undermined, and that all collapsed as in the spring. Spring wasn't so serious, but it was up to the right? So when they decided to build it, they thought, well, we've already started a Gothic arcade there. We'll just keep going. But it is subtly different. If you look up this pillar, you look up to the gallery, and you look that side, and you see the frieze at the bottom is rather geometric, right? Or dogtooth. If you look this side, and you see it's much more, it's like a flower, we call it a wallflower decoration. And you look at the gallery above, it's much more elaborate. And this tells you that was the earlier